Let's talk and paint watercolor. Welcome, my name is Janine Galizia, and this week I want to talk about the choice and the role that your paper has in your watercolor paintings. Now, last week we focused on water and what actually water does in a watercolor. So meaning that water is the vehicle that we use to transport our color, make them fuse more, have less water, make them fuse less. A higher quantity of water will actually dilute your color, so your color saturation will be lower, will actually make your washes more transparent. Less water brings you sometimes more saturated color, but actually also a heavier, sometimes even opaque finish to your watercolors. The role of water also in the degree of light, mid, and dark tonal values, the degree of contrast, and your edges, the way that you actually use and work your edges in a painting. Your watercolor paper determines the look and the finish of your finished paintings. So the quantity of your water, the quantity of the water that you're using in your paintings is going to change depending on the type of paper that you use. So we have different categories of paper. We have cellulose paper, we have a mix of cellulose and cotton, and we have cotton papers. They create completely different effects. And some papers may suit some artists and others may not. But the one thing which is for sure is that you can't use the same technique with the same result across all of these different kinds of paper. So you're better off understanding what the finish result that you want, what it's going to be, and choose the adapted paper to get that result. So that's the easiest way of doing it. Yet that's not usually the way that we do it. Most people, they either use the same paper as their teacher, same paper as an artist that they like, or they actually just go into the art shop and they buy whatever's on promotion. That's probably the worst choice that we can make. So what happens is that your paper will move. It will swell and contract with the water that you use, but in a different way. Okay, so we're going to get a little bit technical. This is really important to understand so that you can actually gauge which kind of paper actually suits you and why maybe your paintings buckle, maybe you can't get graded washes because the paper that you're using just doesn't want to create them, or maybe it's actually your habits in painting. How do you know if you don't understand your paper? So what I want to do is I want to just give you a quick little lesson on the way that fibers move depending on the type of paper that you have, cellulose, mixed, and cotton. This is really important. This should be actually the first thing that you look at. So, machine-made papers, usually the fibers are all lined up in the same direction. When you put water on this surface, the paper will actually stretch outwards more than it will stretch upwards, meaning that the paper moves more in one direction than the other direction. And this is what creates that buckling effect when you're using a lot of water. Cellulose papers waver. They just waver because the stretching moves one direction and cannot balance itself out by moving in the same degree in the opposite direction. When you're working with a cotton paper, and particularly a mold-made paper, were made in a cylinder form, and those fibers become knotted up. They become basically placed in all different directions. So again, when you put water on the surface of this kind of paper, because the fibers are all in different directions and each fiber expands outwards, but your paper is actually going to stretch in every direction, which means it reduces that wavering effect, because as much as the paper moves in this direction, it probably moves in that direction, in that direction, in this direction. So it cancels that movement out, or at least it adapts to it by reducing one major direction of movement. Cellulose paper, you can get a little bit frustrated because the wavering paper can be a little bit more complicated to paint on, and you want to do a straight line, your paper is wiggly, it doesn't sort of get the effect that you want. It's more frustrating when your paper is wavering to try and paint on that kind of surface. But you also get in these dips, you can actually get pools of color and paint which accumulate and create an accumulation of paint, which is maybe not what you want. But you can also not really get very good graded washes. You won't get those beautiful transitions between graded washes as you would do on a mold-made cotton paper. However, on a cellulose paper, you will get a more nervous look. You will get more vibrancy when it comes to the colors because they sit basically on the surface of the paper. They don't really go down so much into the heart of the paper. So the appearance of the color is a lot brighter. It's also a lot easier to take off color. You can correct your watercolors more often and more easily. But at the same time, if your color is sitting just there on top of the paper, if you want to come back in and put another wash on, you're going to upset that wash that was there before. So a cellulose paper is not the kind of a paper that you're going to be doing successive washes on. If you want to do successive washes, you really do need to go to a mold-made cotton paper. If you're wanting to go very much alla prima, so you're just doing, your direct strokes, you're wanting them to be more nervous, you're wanting to have a brighter, almost cleaner finish to the wash, and you don't go back into it, then your cellulose paper could be very good for you. Stretch your paper beforehand, and then it won't waver so much. So a cotton paper, whether it be partially cellulose and cotton or it be completely cotton, creates a very different effect because you do have these fibers that go in different directions, but also the color sinks down into the heart of the paper. It actually goes in between the fibers and actually sinks into the heart of the paper. So that means that your washes no longer sit on top of the paper. They kind of sink down into and in between those fibers, meaning that you can come back on and you can add another wash. And when you go back on and you add another wash, you're not going to disrupt so much the washes that were there beforehand. A great advantage if you're wanting to paint in successive washes. You can also take off color. It's not as easy as it is in cellulose, but you can definitely do it. But then at the same time, because the color is not sitting on the surface, it allows you to play longer and create more effects. So it really depends on the way that you paint and the look of the painting that you want. Cellulose paper, you must paint faster and work less on the paper. Don't go back in and paint successive washes. Don't keep going back into a wash. It's going to get muddier faster. However, your colors will sit on the surface and appear brighter and fresher. Whereas if you're using a cotton paper, the cotton paper allows you to work longer on the sheet, gives you all those amazing graded washes, which create, amazing light, very soft diffused light. You also have the fact that you can do successive washes and build effects and texture into your painting, which you can't really do on cellulose so well. You can get one or two effects, but it's limited because of the number of washes that you can go back into. So the kind of look that you're wanting in your painting, the amount of water also that you use, if you're someone who just wants everything to fuse, you'd be better off with a cotton paper. If you're wanting just to put on a few washes, be more direct, have the color and the brush strokes be more spontaneous, and I would say you put them on once and you don't go back into them, cellulose may be your thing. But you really do need to choose. Because a lot of papers are great, but not every paper will suit you, and not every paper will actually give you the result that you're looking for. So as an artist, you need to think about what the finished result of the paintings you want to create is, and then choose your paper around that choice. Even between the cotton papers, there'll be some that you like and some that you don't. Even between the same thing on the cellulose papers, they're not all going to work the same way. Now listen to this. This is actually really important. As a watercolor teacher of about 30 years and as a judge, an international judge of about 20 years, this is something that I see all the time. Many people, if not half of the paintings that I see, are paintings painted on the wrong paper. Now, how can you see that? You can see that the habits of the artist don't match the capacity of the paper that they're working on. You can see that the artist is trying to get a certain effect and they're pushing their paper in that effect, and the paper doesn't react the way they want. And when you see that they're wanting to paint in this way, you know what paper they should be painting on. So what happens is that many artists actually come to the conclusion that they're not painting well, that the way that their paint has a problem with it, rather than they're painting on the wrong paper. Do you get what I mean? So most people would actually say, I can't paint, my paintings at the moment are not good, I'm just not getting great results, therefore the problem is me. And it can be. It can be. Don't misunderstand, and don't take that as if all the problems are coming from the paper. It's not what I'm saying. But I can tell you what, many people are painting on a paper that does not suit their style of painting and what you can see the artist is trying to achieve. So come back to the very beginning with your paintings and just think about the result that you want. Go through the criteria that I've just given you and then have a think about what paper you're actually using. And is it that you're using a paper that just doesn't give you the look that you're looking for because it doesn't have that capacity? So maybe just change paper. Maybe just change paper, and you will need a time to adapt. So don't paint one painting and think, it's not good, therefore it is me. You're going to have to work with the paper a little bit to see and adapt to the finish of the paper. So I hope that helps. We're going to keep diving down into the different qualities of paper, and next week also of pigments. And if you have any suggestions of any other subjects that you want to talk about, because I'm actually going to bring in different people, different art manufacturers of different products, so that they can actually tell us or all the artists from the manufacturing point of view, what the qualities of their papers are, what the qualities of their paints are, and then also some feedback on the artist level so we can actually try and get the right paper, the right material suited to the paintings that we do. So with that, I shall say, happy painting.